calling back into session the public session of tonight's business meeting. And the first thing will be the Pledge of Allegiance, and we will ask Mr. Trent to lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, we have emergency evacuation information. Everybody who's in this room, look for the exit signs and leave promptly in case of an emergency. We're a non-smoking campus, so nowhere on campus should anybody be smoking. We next go to it's called the board consent agenda, but we have the first item coming up, which is really exciting. And Dr. Gianni, do you want to introduce this?
Frog there.
We have a problem?
So, okay, well, Jack, why don't you unmute yourself? I think you can hear me, right?
Hello.
Okay, so I would like to introduce the board to our Stuco president at Bellport High School, who will be taking the reins of Farley and serving as the student ex officio for the Board of Education. Mr. Frankie's name may sound familiar, and that is because his dad serves as assistant principal at Bellport Middle School, and his mom is a kindergarten teacher at Kramer. So welcome, Jack.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for waiting for us. I know we were very time consumed this evening, and sorry to have you wait, because we looked forward to meeting you and to having you sworn in. And I think we have the clerk here who's able to do that remotely.
Yes, I just want to let Jack know. So Jack, you see what you see on the screen, right? But we have a number of trustees in the boardroom. We have two trustees at home. That's Ms. Felice and Mr. Parker, and they can wave. There you go. You see who those folks are. And then I'm going to turn my thing around so you can see everybody. I think you can see Mr. Ruda.
Jack,
Away.
congratulations.
What's up, Jack?
Thank you so much.
Mr. Bacchini. We have President Hayes,
Hi.
Vice President
Yeah.
Trent, and Trustee Ancona.
Hi, Jack. Congratulations.
So
Thank you so
now, Jack, I think the person to your left is the district clerk. She's got a mask on. She's going to swear you in.
Hi, Jack.
Hello.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Just repeat after me.
Yeah.
Okay. I, and state your name,
I, Jack Frankie,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of student ex officio board member
of student ex officio board member
of the South Country Central School District
of the South Country School District
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Okay, you're in, Jack. No turning back.
Well, this was the first, Jack. Thank you for doing this. And normally we're all together in the room, and you would be coming over to sign the book. But I think that the district clerk will make arrangements for you to do that at a time that's convenient for both of you.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. The next on board consent, I think we could just do that and,
Well, you know, we swore them in, so you
Oh,
still have to
right.
approve them. So you
Oh, we
can
have to do that.
Yeah, you could do them all, 1 through 6.
Okay, so now we're going to approve items C1 through C6. Is there a motion to do that? Ms. Ancona, second, Mr. Trent. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving items C1 through C6, please raise your hand. And Mr. Parker, I'm gonna need a
Thumbs up.
you got thumbs up. Okay. It's unanimously approved, and Jack Frankie, you are now our newest student ex officio member of the board, and we look forward to having you with us as things progress and we're able to do that. So thank
Thank you,
you.
I'm very excited and I'm honored to be appointed.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Okay. Next,
Okay, my turn?
your turn.
Okay, so moving on to my report. Visitors to our website will notice a new quick link under our reopening plan called COVID-19 Report Card. This link takes you to the state's website where you can access COVID-19 positive data reported to the state, which includes enrolled students and working teachers and other staff who are physically present in the school, including in-person learning. The report card is part of the state's contact tracing effort. So the board is aware. The district is also notifying our families when a student or an adult exhibits symptoms of COVID-19 flu or cold and is sent home. We're doing this out of an abundance of caution so individuals and families can self-monitor themselves in the event they were in close contact with the individual. Obviously, if the person sent home does in fact test positive for COVID, those in close contact would be notified by the Department of Health as well as the district. Moving on, in an effort to reduce items touched and distributed, we are no longer backpacking flyers, and this is generally happens in our elementary schools. All flyers that the district or from community organizations will be placed in each of our schools' virtual backpacks, which is on our website, and we do recommend parents check the virtual backpack on a weekly basis for new items. We are also forming a committee to review and provide suggestions for updating and improving the district's website. It will be a subcommittee of the board's advisory committee of strategic planning. Its work will begin in the next couple of weeks, so parents, faculty, or staff interested in serving on this committee, please send an email of interest to the district clerk. I learned from Syntax earlier this week that our site is an older site, and they have done some upgrades, and they sent us some examples that the committee will take a look at in addition to looking and see what our site is, how it may be improved, with an eye on communicating, obviously, with our families. That's one of the things that we're really trying to do. Another topic, as the board's aware, Section 11's Athletic Council voted to postpone the fall season and condense all 3 seasons, fall, winter, and spring, from January through June. Section 11 will run 3 complete seasons for varsity and junior varsity, and middle school will be, I believe, a 4th season. Each season will be about 8 weeks long, ending with a championship event. Now that the county's decision has been made, I have asked Mr. McIntyre, our athletic director, to prepare a plan for the board to consider for a soft rollout of after-school athletic activities that follow and certainly adhere to New York State guidance for sports and recreation, as well as New York State Public High School Athletic Association's return to interscholastic athletics. I expect to have that plan at our October 14th meeting for the board's consideration. And then finally, just a few comments on our reopening and how it's going. I want the board and obviously the public to also know that our faculty have been working very hard at supporting their students and adjusting to the new normal of teaching under our hybrid and remote model. Short of being able to have our students back for full in-person instruction. Overall, I am pleased with how it's going so far. Things are certainly not perfect, but each day they are improving, and our faculty and staff are truly doing their best. Connecting with all students, whether in person or remote, is going well. Teachers are getting pretty good at connecting live with their students through Google Meets. Some teachers are actually finding it easier to do more live instruction rather than recording and posting. And I recently visited an art class where the teacher began with a live lesson and then had remote students rejoin the in-person students at the end of the period to share their work that they did at home. It was pretty cool and exciting to see the remote kids interact and share that work with the kids there at school. So that was very, very exciting. While improvement is being made, some of our faculty do still struggle with this new normal, and we certainly understand that. This is particularly true for our K-2 teachers who are relatively new to Google Classroom. However, we do remain flexible and continue to provide opportunities for professional development and collaborative planning on Wednesdays. Our virtual Meet the Teacher nights have been going very well. Middle school was last week, and our K-3 buildings were Monday. Both were good tests for our bandwidth, and we had no issues with regard to bandwidth at those evenings. Bandwidth was recently doubled, as the board knows. We did eliminate, which did eliminate some slowness, and that was being experienced. We're also planning to install some additional devices which will further improve our remote connections, and that's sometime down the road. We're looking at financing options with regard to installing those devices. We did need to make some changes to our secondary Wednesday schedule to solve some problems. Our students attending AM and PM BOCES programs did not have the opportunity to connect with their classroom teacher for support on Wednesdays while they were on the school bus. Allowing students to check in up until midnight made reconciling attendance the next day at the secondary level simply unmanageable for our teachers. And we needed to ensure timely and accurate attendance for all students that were occurring, and the reconciliation, we just simply could not do that. Changes to the Wednesday schedule went out today to faculty and families and will go into effect on Tuesday, the 29th. We continue to seek input from our faculty either through virtual office hours or survey. In fact, a survey will soon go out to the elementary teachers seeking their input on the elementary Wednesday schedule as well. And that's all I have, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions that the board might have.
Boy, I see hands up all around the table.
My
Mr.
paper.
Pacini.
So I guess the Wednesday thing is definitely the biggest topic amongst parents and students. And I guess it really, and I understand why we made the change, so I just want to make sure I clarify it. So now, on Wednesdays, students in secondary level are responsible to sign in at their beginning of each period, as if they do on their days that they're remote. Is that accurate?
No. It's not accurate.
Okay, you said we couldn't,
So what we did, we were able to change the codes in eSchool, so now what we're doing is we'll be recording students who are present with a P, and other students that are remote but not present with an A, but it doesn't affect their attendance.
okay, but Wednesdays, everybody's remote.
Correct.
So,
Right, but
but what
some-
my point is this, if a kid doesn't sign on at all on a Wednesday, is he absent or not?
No, it's not absent.
He's not absent.
No, he's
Okay.
not for attendance purposes.
Not for attendance purposes, okay. I'd like, because there's still a lot of confusions, because basically the way it's being interpreted in high school kids is Wednesdays are off. Okay, and it's become, Tuesday night is like Friday night now. So I guess I'm trying to understand how long that's gonna be, and when there's going to be assignments or an expectation that they're going to sign in to their Google Meets or their Google Classrooms on Wednesdays.
Right now, I don't have a timeline for doing that. It certainly would depend upon how long we stay in this model, and obviously if we stay in there longer, we can certainly look at making that a requirement. Right now, we're trying to make sure a couple of things happen on Wednesdays. Number one, we're able to provide the support to the students that are remote, whether they're all remote or remote on that day, and making connections with those kids, and also providing time for our faculty to have professional development time, so they can better improve their skills with regard to
Okay,
delivering.
because
remote
the
learning.
follow-up to that is, I guess at this point, I don't see why we can't alternate Wednesdays for each cohort.
Well,
And-
I think if we did that, number one, you wouldn't have that remote, those folks that are on remote learning. Remember, we have 20% of our students that are on remote learning only.
Mhm.
That would be gone for them, because they would be, you'd have the teachers in with a hybrid model. The second piece that you'd miss is the PD time that we're providing for our teachers now, to get them up to speed in terms of learning and doing,
But,
which I think is pretty vital right now.
but when you talk about the remote kids, why couldn't they just sign in as they do a day the teacher's in class? Right, you said the remote
The
kids,
remote-only
kids wouldn't have any instruction on Wednesday, is what you're saying?
Right, no, what I'm saying is they wouldn't be able to support, they wouldn't be able to sign in on that day only. So how would you, would you alternate them too? I think you're suggesting,
Well, they're going, for
Similar
so what
to-
is their schedule? It's a review day for them on Wednesday also.
If
So
every-
why wouldn't that be like every other day? Why couldn't that be the same as Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, wherever they're?
well, you would have to alternate it, or just make it every Wednesday, whichever cohort's in.
Yeah, but I guess on Wednesdays they'd be part of, because right now they're part of both cohorts technically, right?
Correct.
So why would Wednesday be any different than Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday?
The only difference would be, no, I guess there wouldn't be much of a difference there.
I mean, they're signing in on those other days.
You
so-
would lose the PD piece.
And you'd also lose the extra help, the personal connection, with the children on that Wednesday then, that may need it.
It's another
Okay.
extra help lost, and the
Right,
PD piece.
yeah, so giving that up would then, whether it be, I know in my particular, my son's situation, excuse me, some of his core classes are later on in the day. The teacher may teach the entire period, which is fabulous, because it's like being in there,
Some of our teachers are.
and then the assignments are given. So he's working well beyond the school day and on that computer well beyond the school day. So having maybe that Wednesday, or even being a little bit more flexible with some of the due dates, may be something that we want to think about at that secondary level, depending upon their schedules. If they have some of their electives earlier in the morning, they may not be getting, but if the due date is at 12 o'clock, what's happening with many of our high school students, and even middle school students, they're working well beyond the school day because the assignments are being given because the teacher is teaching. And that's wonderful that they're teaching, but maybe some flexibility in having that Wednesday there. Because listen, it's a lot to manage. I'll be the first to tell you. It's an extreme amount to manage from a teacher's standpoint, between instructing in person, instructing and then grading and doing attendance. One of the things I did notice today, that I had not seen before, that eSchool is now in collaborating with Google Meets, that when you log in, that actually just becomes, you can immediately take attendance through eSchool. I don't know if that's something that we started to look into, but there's a collaboration with eSchool and Google Meet, so that instead of downloading that attendance, so if they sign in, that's one less thing maybe the teacher has to do. So I don't know if that's something that we're looking into.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to-
It just popped up on eSchool today, so it's definitely something that we might want to think about looking into or discussing with eSchool.
That thought had occurred to me earlier today about why couldn't it just be automatic? You
It
know,
just happened, I only saw it
So
today on
This
eSchool.
sounds like a technology question that maybe could be followed up on to see if it's gonna make life easier on everybody.
Sure, listen, what Ms. Arruda is suggesting is what has to happen for it to work.
Right.
Because
I guess
it's two different
I just want to
platforms.
follow up just real quickly on some of these. My problem with the whole thing is that kids will benefit when they're in person more than not. And I think we have an opportunity on Wednesdays. I think I'm the only one who has elementary age kids here. It's not easy. The kids are distracted. You're not in a learning environment. My house isn't set for kids to learn to read and write. My house is set up for comfort, right? So, and listen, it's the beginning of the school year and there's not a ton of work. It's increasing and that's wonderful. But 11 o'clock, my kids are done. in the morning, right? They start at, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and they're done by 11. And now it's, all right, Dad, what are we doing today? And that's a problem that's happening for a lot of parents when I talk to them. If you talk to elementary school parents, I can tell you, it's difficult. I can only imagine what K-2 is like. So if at the very least, we can look at, in the next few weeks, what really we gain or lose from putting kids in class alternating Wednesdays, I really think it needs to be looked into real hard here, if it hasn't already, because I think kids need to be in school more than less.
Thank you. Just piggybacking on what Chris had said about the alternating, if we're really doing those deep cleanings on Wednesday, like we're supposed to be doing, then that's gonna have to move to night at some point, because we don't wanna mix the cohorts, because that was our whole point.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
If we're gonna alternate Wednesdays
Yeah.
with the children, with the cohorts, then Tuesday nights are gonna have to become a heavy cleaning night, and then Wednesday nights before the next cohort, if we do that. And I would rather see that in elementary level if we had to than the secondary, because I think, and I appreciate that Wednesday extra help, where the kids may not be taking advantage of it now, but once they get, and my son started to get real work this week and stuff, and he did use his time wisely today, but you're gonna have school projects, you're gonna have studying, and we don't want them to be on the computer that much, which they already are. As far as the new attendance guidelines, and Chris, you might have missed that today, it came out, it was emailed by the high school.
Yeah, I'm gonna
No,
put it
I
in
didn't
here.
miss it, I saw it. I
Oh, okay,
just-
because, so I just have two issues with it, and I appreciate that they don't have to log in on Wednesdays anymore. But under 1C, where it says student working remotely who do not join the daily Google Meet will be marked absent. And this is for the two cohorts, so Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. The C part, there has to be some kind of caveat where it says on the other ones that it's not gonna, the code will not impact the student's attendance record negatively with an absent. That's gonna have to be there as well for C, because just in the high school level and some of the Regents classes in the middle school, if they get those 20 absences, you're gonna look at, a teacher can look at a withdraw fail. So that can be an issue, unless we're doing away with those 20 absences guidelines, which I think is mandated by the state. So do you see on A, where it says the students, the code will not impact the student's attendance negatively? That just needs to be moved to C as well. That's what I'm asking for. And then number 3 kind of contradicts number 5. Number 3 says attendance for all students, whether in person or remote, must be completed at the end of each instructional period. This includes all remote Wednesdays. Now, when I was speaking to administration today, they advised that that was really for the teachers, but the parents got that, and that led to confusion. So that needs to be like somewhere on there for teachers to know. That way we can follow 5 correctly, where it says remote Wednesdays, teachers will indicate present P for any student joining the live support Google Meet in the classroom, and absent A for all the other students. Select the attendance reason, remote attendance not required, at the bottom of the reasons. Now, again, that's for the teachers, but the parents could read into it that they don't have to log in. So just 3 was a little confusing because it looked like it contradicted 5, and C just needs to say that it's not gonna impact a student negatively, and then I'm fine with this plan.
I'm gonna have you talk to Mr. Hogan.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine. And, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And so you know, this plan is being implemented.
Right, on the
Okay.
29th, yes, yeah.
You had a question?
Yeah, how do we?
And I'm sorry, just before you go, Mr. Trent, I just wanna, you said 1C?
Yeah, so,
1C
1C just needs to have a caveat saying it's not gonna affect the student.
Yeah, just give me the numbers, I really.
Okay, 1C, and then 3 needs to be for teachers, not parents.
And did you say something about 5 as well?
Well, just 3 contradicted 5,
Oh, okay.
but it really was for the teachers, not really for the parents to see.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to say
Mr.
something?
Trent? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
is there a way that Because I don't have any students, so I didn't get
Yeah,
that.
it's gonna go home in the update tomorrow.
Okay. Is there a way that we could, just how we get those robocalls from Central, is there a way that you can just put my email on the email list for the schools somehow?
Yeah, I don't know, I'd have to check that, I honestly don't know.
Okay. I would just like to
I can
get,
forward this to you too,
Sure. but moving forward, I would like to see those.
yeah,
documents as
and
well.
I don't get them for anything other than the high school either, except what's posted, but, and I would like to see that too, if it is possible. But just because if I could still have my turn, sorry. The other thing is that you had mentioned about the teachers, going live, which I appreciate, but they still have to record it, and some teachers I'm hearing aren't recording it for the kids that are logging in later. So I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page and that they're aware that we appreciate, I'm 100% for my son logging out for the full 39 minutes. But in case a kid has to go or come back or do it later, I just wanna make sure that they're being recorded all across the board and posted later.
Mr. Puccini?
I guess I want to go back to Wednesdays again, I'm having a hard time, and I understand the extra help, but why are we not utilizing the 9th period each day for kids? Like, there's an extra period at the end of the day, right?
No, no,
Is there not when there's an extra help? Every teacher has extra help.
that's after school.
That's what I'm talking about, at the 10th
And
period,
it's
whatever.
it's one day a week.
It's one day a week, the teachers, but I don't understand why students can't, as they would do if they were fully in person, seek out extra help on that extra help day.
They could. I'm
I
not-
mean, so that's what I'm getting at, right? If we're saying it's a review day, kids need help, they're struggling, that's fine, but there is time, what's happening to that time now? Because, right, contractually, our staff
It's
is
being
a bit.
scheduled,
What's that?
it's being scheduled,
What is?
extra help.
So extra help on top of review, I mean, it just seems like, they're both the same thing, structured a little differently, right? I mean, if I'm a high school kid, unfortunately, the kids are viewing it as Wednesdays is off, right? Some kids are gonna sign on and get extra help and things like that, but why couldn't they just have that time, that 40-minute period after school for them to seek extra help? Especially now, because there's very little you need extra help on in the first few weeks of school. So, I just see our teenagers and the high school kids being dormant on Wednesdays with very little to do. So, that leads to that doesn't lead to good things.
I'm a little confused, so Wednesday is a review day, or is it?
No, Wednesday is a support day.
Okay.
It's supporting all students remotely.
And,
And it's also a day for professional development for our faculty.
so the student,
And planning and preparing,
so the student doesn't have to log in
only
on
if
the
they
Wednesday?
need support. do
Only if
they
they
have-
need
do they
support.
log in.
I see. And Chris, you're suggesting that that we send the students to school on Wednesday?
Either,
Or,
well, I'm suggesting we send them on alternating Wednesdays depending on their cohort, yes.
I see.
It's one extra day, 2 extra days in class in person a month, but it also focuses kids, on Wednesday, instead of it, like I said, it's being interpreted, because even, listen, some teachers are saying, you don't need help, you don't need to log in or do anything on Wednesdays. So, I mean, if anything, I'd rather see Wednesdays be the special day. Let them do gym virtually on Wednesdays or something. I don't mean to dismiss gym, but, at the end of the day, I'm concerned with the amount of time our secondary students are being educated. And I think if we can offer more by alternating Wednesdays, and maybe the board disagrees, I'm just giving you my perspective as a parent and talking to kids, and many other districts are doing the exact same thing with alternating Wednesdays.
I think that's a good idea.
I just don't see why we would consider it how
No,
it's a lesser benefit than what we're doing now, and I understand the PD piece, but if we're giving PD on Wednesdays, then the teachers aren't available for review, right? So, how can we make them available for review and give them PD on the same day?
There's a block.
Yeah,
That's why.
the problem is that we created the schedule and blocked it in the middle for PD, so, it doesn't affect the kids that are in BOCES, and they can take advantage of the, extra help in each of the classes. And we also try to get as close as we can to the middle school, so we can have some joint PDs between the two, the things that may be of interest and needed. And listen, by all means, alternating Wednesdays is a concept that I think we can explore as we move down and people become more accustomed to the model. I don't think now is the time. We can certainly look at it now and what it might look like, but I don't think it's now is the time to do it, until everybody's pretty comfortable with what we're doing.
I agree with you. I'm working in a district that does do the alternating Wednesdays. I do know right now it is very challenging for teachers for prepping, grading, to effectively implement those lessons without having that day where there is PD, that you're collaborating, where you're doing your RTI meetings, where you're doing those types of things on that Wednesday, and then also giving the children time to catch up. You know, it's a different beast when you have children inside of your classroom and you can, as an educator, really feel who's struggling and who's not struggling, and then when you have some on a screen, this is a whole different beast of teaching that nobody's ever experienced before. So we definitely need time to make sure that we really have this down and that we are implementing the best possible lessons that we can under these circumstances, and that we're not forgetting our RTI and our AIS and all of the things that go into a normal school year. So I do tend to agree with you that now is not the time, maybe moving forward, but it's very hard. It's very challenging from a teacher's point of view, from a parent's point of view, and from a student's point of view, from every levels, but this is the cards that we're dealt with right now.
And just to add to that, before we even consider the Wednesday thing, I would rather bring the ENL and the inclusion kids back as the main priority before any Wednesday because of high school, kid is being lazy. Like, they're gonna have work eventually. If they don't right now, they're gonna be able to utilize that time. And to me, the ENL and the inclusion kids are the ones that we have to really consider bringing back before anybody else.
Jen, I had a question regarding your announcements.
Which announcement?
Is this still on the attendance?
No.
Can I ask my question before we change that? Is there a difference between this attendance policy, which appears to be for academic purposes, and the attendance information that is sent to the state for Department of Health reasons, so that they would know who's in contact with everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a different
It's
system?
a totally different, yeah, that's reported differently to the state, and that's reported 3 o'clock every day.
And just to summarize with the secondary attendance protocols, if there's any way to have attendance and other items done automatically,
Sure.
to take it out of the hands of
Agreed.
teachers or staff or whatever, because it seems like, to me, from a practical point of view, this sounds very burdensome on a classroom teacher. And I would rather have the teacher's time spent interacting with the students.
Agreed.
Okay.
If that's possible, we would do it without even being asked to do that. In fact, we changed the protocol simply because we recognized what we were doing was too cumbersome, particularly on the secondary teachers. It was just unmanageable.
Right, Mr. Trent?
Yeah, so the students who went home because of, they had COVID-like symptoms, what requirements do they need to come back to school?
When they come home, they need to come back with a clearance from the health provider and/or a COVID-19 negative test. There's actually confusion, not a firm understanding of a doctor can clear the child or adult, or if you need the COVID-19 check, negative. We checked with our school doctor who was conferring with DOH, we haven't heard back from him.
Okay,
All of our folks so far have just gotten a test.
yeah, I'm sure.
But there is, I think CDC says healthcare can clear, and I think DOH says you're COVID negative.
Okay. So, but luckily, we've had only a handful of,
Yeah, half a dozen, I think, between adults and students, And you know, I don't know if the board noticed, we changed the letter that goes home. The first letter was COVID symptoms, right? We really don't know because there's so many symptoms that are similar. So we have COVID, flu, cold symptoms, because we don't know what it is. So,
Yeah, I saw that you did add that, and I thought, well, that's good, because giving notice to the community that someone went home with COVID symptoms.
yeah, we had somebody call and say, what was the result? So,
Yeah.
but,
Okay.
and that's all I have, President Hayes.
I do have a question, though, on your report about the athletic plans
Sure.
and the athletic director's preparation of the soft rollout plan. Does that mean there would be practices before January, or practices start in January?
No, we're looking to do conditioning activities before January. Yeah.
So that's what you mean by the soft rollout, is to,
Yeah, well, the soft rollout is also, so the state indicated certain sports. My opinion is, you know, I don't know why the county didn't stick with cross-country, tennis, and golf. I mean, those sports could have went on. So there are certain sports that I believe, as long as we follow all the guidelines, we can have them in small groups of students within cohorts, following social distancing guidelines, and begin conditioning activities and find things for our kids to do. Because I believe, you know, our kids are going crazy.
right?
They are.
No, agreed. So, but the plan is basically no actual competitions would start until January or later.
Right, it's conditioning stuff, it's
Okay.
weight room stuff, it's individual stuff.
Running,
Well,
whatever.
we'll see a complete plan.
And we'll know more at our next meeting.
Right.
Mr. Puccini.
I guess I understand Section 11 made their decision, and I probably understand why as much as I disagree with it, but the governor hasn't changed his guidelines other than football, volleyball, and cheerleading, which again, that was really more about competition. So I guess my point is, why do we have to wait another 3 weeks for the next board meeting for a plan for something that's already within the guidelines that the state and the governor have put down for some sort of activity? Because I get what you're saying, there's a plan and the whole thing, but I guess I'm not really sure why the board has to approve it, and I really don't understand why we want to lose those 3 weeks when kids are going, we need to keep them active and doing things. It's good for them, you know, and it's hard for the kids who play an indoor sport, right? Because there's not a basketball court around, but if the football team wants to get together for a workout somewhere at a park, they can easily do that. So I think whatever we can do and consider and discuss to get something going sooner than 3 weeks from now, I don't want to lose those 3 weeks, because then you're gonna have a problem with the outdoor sports. It's not gonna be really good enough weather to be outside, right? So, I mean, if we're able to have gym class, you know, in a gym with a number of kids, why couldn't we apply the same guidelines to 5 kids on an indoor sport, whether it's basketball, volleyball, in a gym with 1 person?
Yeah, listen, I agree, that's the mystery behind this whole, you know, why you can do it in physical education, but you can't do it outside.
But my point is
And
that there is
I'm-
nothing that says we can't do it.
Yeah, no, there isn't, but listen, obviously I want the board to know what's going on, I'm not gonna just go out and do something, all of a sudden you see a bunch of kids on the field, and then you say, Dr. Sterling, what the heck's going on, everybody's on the field. So, if the board's comfortable with that, I'm comfortable with it as well. I can share it to you in writing, and if I hear, concerns, we can not do it, and if there are no concerns, I can move forward with it.
Yeah, I mean, I would think our plan, I'm gonna cut you off, I'm sorry, but our plan, like a lot of what would come out of this is already in our reopening plan, so why wouldn't we apply those guidelines to, you know, having kids come in sooner?
That's exactly right. It would have to abide by our reopening plan, it would have to abide by the DOH guidance with regard to sports and rec, and it would have to abide by NISOP return to athletics.
And then the last piece, I would further extend that to our local athletic leagues, and I
think
understand
that would be the next step.
because I understand the issue is we'd have to police their guidelines and everything else, but I would think that if we were able to ask the local leagues to submit their plan, you know, to us for review, I mean, I would think that, I mean, because here's the thing, we're running out of time, right? Because I don't think we're ready to let groups use our facilities indoors. I don't know that I would agree with that. But whether it's soccer, I can imagine the soccer league is paying the town of Brookhaven to use Martha Park, and we got people scattered all over. I spoke to the people at the Little League, and their biggest fear right now is that the fields are gonna, all the work they put in the fields the last 10 years is being destroyed because it's not being maintained by them as they normally do, et cetera. I would just hate to see our stakeholders just lose out on things. If we can somehow discuss how we can allow something to happen, whether we put a cap on kids, a cap on time, things along those nature. I mean, heck, I'll volunteer to be the liaison to go make sure they're following the guidelines. I just wanna see kids playing. And one last point, I'm sorry, and because this is, I'm passionate about this. The problem is, and the conversation is, as you look around, the families that are affluent enough to afford travel sports are still playing. This is affecting our kids who can't spend $3,000 to play on a travel lacrosse team or a soccer team or go to trainers and all those other things. But our kids that don't have, the families that don't have the money and want their kid to play soccer or Little League or whatever else out on the field, that's who I'm concerned about right now.
I agree, and I thought to myself that once we did that soft rollout, we would need to start looking at our community groups as well, because obviously they're gonna see us on the field too. But I am concerned about policing them, and I would wanna see what their plans are for policing their own, because we don't have the resources to do that.
And I think that's reasonable.
Do we normally police them?
I'm sorry?
Do we normally police them, like while they're on the field? Do we?
No, so if we loan out our facilities, we have to ensure that people using them are following social distancing
Right,
guidelines,
okay,
cleaning up,
yeah.
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand what is going to happen without Port Authority.
A soft rollout of activities after school, within the guidelines.
Intramurals?
Well, it wouldn't be intramurals, but it could be considered intramurals. Intramurals is part of the day, though.
And so you're having after-school activities, just with South Country students?
Yes. Yes, just our own students.
Intramurals or conditioning training?
Intramurals are,
Right, yeah, I know, but I think that
I think there's a difference between.
There's a difference in
Yeah,
determining, so if we title it conditioning training,
well, I think intramurals you're better off, because intramurals is the extension of the classroom before.
it's also more of
But
a
I think there's
contact with one
I
another.
think the difference here, if I may, is that what typically happens preseason, right? The coaches can't be involved. Although I don't know what those guidelines are now that it got shifted and the date officially be September 21st. But, for example, my son plays basketball. Better example is the football teams, right? Those guys all summer long were meeting at a field, and the captains were organizing workouts, conditioning, drills, and things like that. Those things happen. Same thing, there's like the basketball team where my son plays on the basketball team. He's just saying, listen, we just need a gym. We'll go play, and we can bring in groups of 5 at a time. The coaches can't necessarily be there. Maybe they can find a volunteer to do it or something. Same thing with soccer, right? There's no reason we can't have that team go out there and organize their own type of.
Yeah, I think where
Workout.
Mrs. Sheehan's going is it's part of the reopening plan, and the board has to approve.
So where I'm going is, if you have facilities being used, whether it's by either outside individuals or students, there has to be some authority between authorized to be there and trespass. And that's defined by board rules, regulations, and policy. So outside is 414 of the education law, that's permissible, and you have a procedure for that.
Right, that's an easy one.
That's an easy one. Prior to, under section 11, prior to the season opening up, you have the interschool athletics requirements and restrictions on how much practice you can have, and practice or
Yeah.
informal practice.
Yeah, so,
That's another issue that's not here, because we know that's not until January.
Right, so this would not fall under those practices.
So,
So it's best to describe these as
so it needs
intramural.
so it needs a structure, in my opinion, and would need approval by the board because, if something happens during that time, you need proper supervision and there's a potential for liability. So.
Intramurals, you have that,
If
no?
we had, what if it was like sports clubs?
So clubs, I've heard clubs, I mean, in many places where I'm going, there are proposals for clubs, proposals for intramurals, they're different structures, but they're looking at, you know, a 5 weeks, a 5 weeks club
Yeah,
or intramural season.
intramurals, sure, but that also, you authorize that.
Yes.
Well, can I throw another layer onto it? Because part of the reopening plan has been almost like a phased reopening. We started with the most critical things first, which was academics, as much as we felt we could do. And then with the idea that we will add to them as things progress. And we've heard mention about E&L and some of our special students maybe would be the next phase. If we're doing the athletics, we're gonna be mixing cohorts, our Monday, Tuesday, and our Thursday, Friday cohorts, so where we.
No, that wouldn't be part of the plan. We would keep the kids cohorted.
Okay,
So the Monday, Tuesday kids would participate together and same.
That's gonna be tough to do.
But that's the plan.
I mean, if you have 12 kids on a team, and if 8 are in one cohort and 2 are in the other, you know, listen, I get the cohort thing, but I can assure you, the party my son went to last night wasn't divided up amongst cohort.
Yeah, but it's a job,
Luckily-
it's a
luckily
district's
the
job.
board did
No,
not
I
authorize
Right,
that.
get it,
the district's job
I
is
get
to
it,
do contact
I
tracing.
get it,
Yeah.
I just think it's silly.
Unfortunately.
I get the
Yeah.
policy, and I get the plan, I'm just throwing a
And listen,
pithy
I
comment
get
about there
it.
about how ridiculous it is, that's all.
I get it, what about transportation though?
No, this
You don't, there is
is
nothing
here.
for sports.
Okay, so,
We're not doing a travel.
no, I'm saying transportation home from,
Like
because
There
way
isn't,
out to
there isn't any in high school.
Again, it wouldn't be any.
there'd be no transportation.
Not even the middle
So
school?
that would be clarified right from the beginning, so that.
And then
Well,
that-
that was
listen,
gonna be-
let me pull back on that, because we have
Because-
late buses, we're not using them, we'll have to look at that.
Okay, because to Chris's point, that some of our families that may really need that might also, and you know, and hopefully moving forward, we can also look into slowly starting to reinstate some of the other organizations that we have beyond just sports. Although I get Chris's point, I understand how important sports are for many of our families and for many of our children. But equally important for some of the other organizations, because not all of our students are athletes, and that's okay.
Back in the day when I was younger, and I was probably early college, Bellport Village used to hold in like theater in the park over by the bay. They used to have a stage and stuff.
Oh, they had a
It was
band
still
and
the-
stuff?
Yeah, they still do. So maybe we could look into that for the theater department, the music department, like seeing if we can, you know, that way the kids are all inclusive and it's not just the sports kids that we're worrying about. But that might be something we want to look into because it is outdoors. We could still do it on a cohort. You might actually even get more people that want to do it because there's nothing else really going on. Even with the sports, Chris, like you said, the cohorts might be different, but because a lot of things aren't going on after school, you may get more joining too. So,
The problem is we're gonna run out of warm enough weather for that.
I mean, it's just something to look into. even
No,
if
I get it, I don't
yeah,
disagree.
Yeah.
I guess the issue of clubs for me, why I think it's different is only because they think they're meeting virtually, right? So they're engaged in some extent. I'm worried about, and I'm not
Right, yeah.
diminishing it and making one of them, I just,
I have both kids, so
Yeah,
I
no,
get both
I
points,
get it,
by
and
all
I
means,
just-
I do get both, you know, I get both points,
and I guess the other
if we-
piece too, and let me cut you off though, the other, and I guess usually there aren't preseason workouts at the middle school level, and if we could do something, you know, that's wonderful to get kids engaged. But there's kids in high school who, the fact that their seasons have been shifted, may have lost out on the opportunity to get a scholarship to play a sport somewhere. There's already a lawsuit in New York State from a family upstate who's, the family feels their kid is gonna lose out on a football scholarship because their season is now in March, and no football team's gonna commit to a kid, usually, depending on the level you're at. So there are things like that that I think that are affecting these kids. That's why, and I did send an email to the board, I also think part and parcel with this conversation is we need to discuss if we want to make a statement to Section 11, see if they'll reconsider. I'm sure they won't, but many local districts are doing such to support their athletes and their communities. So,
I'd be behind a letter. I mean, this is for the kids. There's other, like we said, there's other sports leagues and travels going on. What's the difference whether it's school or not? I mean,
that's
I don't think it would do
certainly not
anything, but to be behind a letter, I could do that.
I realize that there are other, the other leagues, the travel leagues, I realize that. But I'm looking at it from the perspective of being the board and the responsibility of the board. And I think that we should take the lead under our reopening plan. Like John had mentioned, if we can have students have some kind of physical athleticism under the reopening plan as we have it, and to go by the Section 11 guidelines from a liability point of view, I'm more comfortable with that.
Just to clarify, the state guidelines didn't change. So those guidelines are there, correct? The state,
Correct, but I
the
think-
governor's office, SED didn't change anything in regards to sports. An independent group, the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, they made their recommendations, and that really, honestly, Section 11 could have broken with them if they wanted anyway. There just wouldn't have been championships, which there aren't gonna be this year anyway. Am I wrong about that?
Well, they did break with them by doing what they did, Section 11.
That's right, because they said everything else can happen. No, I
Yeah,
thought,
they're doing, they shifted the season where the state's allowing those three.
not New York State Public High School Athletic Association. They said everything goes to January, I thought.
No, I don't think so. I think they're still on the
No,
7th September 21.
Nope, they moved everything.
No, they're January.
State athletic directors moved everything to January, and I personally believe that's why Section 11 followed suit, because
Section 11 is who did it, because
Yeah, I think
90%
Section 11,
of the
but
state,
my point is Section 11 probably can break with the state. The only issue that they need New York State Public High School, you're an athletic director, you know.
And that's what I'm telling you, that they did break with the state, because the state is still sticking to those soft sports can run beginning September 21. Our county decided, no, we're not doing that.
Right.
And when they did that, they opted us and everyone else at the county, opted us at the winter championships. Currently, winter and spring season have full state, New York State championships, because those programs are still in effect. They didn't can anything.
Well, the governor canned all
The
state
governor-
championships
the
that,
governor- The governor started, had said to start fall September 21.
but the governor also said there wouldn't be any games played with anybody outside your designated region based on COVID results. So that means Nassau and Suffolk couldn't compete with anybody other than Nassau and Suffolk. So there could have been a Long Island championship, but they couldn't be a state championship.
But if everything blew over, then everything's still in place to be able to do those things.
Are you sure about that? Because there's a
Yeah,
lot of
I'm sure.
logistics that would have to be made if that was gonna happen.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. I speak of our own athletic director, they're very upset that the winter season got canceled as a result of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up now, but the internet's a little
Well,
slow.
it
but-
really doesn't matter. I think the issue, and I'm gonna bring back to Mr. Sheehan, is that we need to follow our plan, and you're suggesting that, or you're counseling that it does need to be approved by the board.
Yes.
If there's a change from the plan.
Yeah, but a soft rollout of athletics is not in the plan.
I see.
What is, to Chris's point, because then we have another 2 or 3 weeks,
Three.
3 weeks. Is there a possibility that we could run a special meeting, say next week, just with that on the agenda? If
That's up to the board.
if that's something that you can have drafted up to us so that,
Oh, I
we
think
can
it's
do
just
that.
about ready. I think it's just about ready. I just wasn't ready for
Well,
today.
why don't we do that then?
can we do that?
I'm
So I
sorry.
think that would,
It was what? I'm sorry, I was
The
trying to find
special
it.
meeting.
to have a
to
special
look at-
meeting
wait, what-
with just that item on the
Why-
agenda.
So John, why can't we approve it based on like in retroactively, based on approval of the plan by the superintendent, and put the guidance in his hand.
My recommendation is that the board have approval of it because it is it's a programmatic and facilities issue. And we have a policy that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear his recommendation.
My recommendation is that the Board of Education approve the plan that's presented by the superintendent of schools. It's a programmatic issue, it's a use of facilities issue, both of which are within the jurisdiction of the board.
So, to summarize that for Clyde and Cheryl, and our ex officio member, this would mean come back with a plan with regard to any athletic activity, however you want to call it. And we would have a special meeting next Wednesday, and I heard at least one trustee ask if the special meeting could be a Zoom meeting. So it's.
Well, can I get back to you on a date though, so I make sure I have.
Sure.
If it's gonna be a Zoom meeting and that's gonna be the only topic to vote on it, we can do it whenever.
Any-
You can do it in
Pretty
the
much
morning.
any.
We can do it in the morning.
Oh,
I mean,
Well, no.
well, I mean, not in the morning,
yeah.
but listen,
Yeah.
I mean, we can do it Saturday morning for like, I mean, I just don't wanna lose any more time. I
Right,
don't wanna
that's what
lose any
we're
more,
saying, that's
yeah,
what
so
we're saying,
if
that's what we're
the
saying,
case,
if we're
that's
doing
fine.
it
If
as
it's
Zoom, that's why we're saying a special meeting, but obviously we also need to have some time for Christine to get the information out to the public and everything. I mean, there's certain protocols that we have to follow, but yeah, I mean, the sooner the better is fine with me as well. If that is the only topic for discussion and we can draft this up, then yes.
Okay. All right, so you figure out when the plan can be presented to us, come up with a time for it, and then notice of the meeting will go out.
I would be opposed to signing off on anything from the board that weren't sort of in the guidelines. I think to ask the board to sign off on something that's not totally legit, I think that's stretching it. I certainly would not want to be held responsible for a group of kids becoming ill because we wanted to rush the activities on the sports field for a while. I would be opposed to that.
I don't think it is going against the guidelines.
No, we wouldn't.
I'm sorry?
No, we wouldn't ask the board to consider anything of that nature.
But anyway, you'll talk to Mr. McIntyre about the plan, figure out a date and time for a Zoom meeting. We'll have a special meeting to discuss this, and that'll be the only topic on that agenda.
Okay.
Okay, and now I have one other question, back to your report about a subcommittee of the Strategic Planning Committee that's
Yes.
going to look into updating and improving the website.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants to be on this subcommittee, they don't have to be on the Strategic Planning Committee
No.
right now.
No,
So,
absolutely.
anybody that, say, a board member or a community member
Sam
or
Connell
a
already got
parent,
on.
you'll,
Am I on?
She's on. She's on.
Oh, yay!
okay,
Cheryl too, I believe.
Yeah, I'll help, I thought it had to be a subcommittee for strategic planning.
No, it could be, it's a subcommittee of strategic planning, but it could be anyone.
Okay, the way that you had it, the way it came out to us, I surmised that it was looking for the board members for the strategic planning.
Just
Right.
don't, not more than 3 of you though.
Right, I think we have two?
I think Cheryl was on it as well.
Well,
Cheryl-
is she on, did she ask to be on the subcommittee?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think she did, right?
I didn't see
don't-
it.
I don't know.
I only saw me.
I thought it was two.
Okay,
She's got a
Cheryl.
snack.
I didn't ask to be on the committee because I'm already on strategic planning.
Yeah,
Right,
she's gonna see it,
okay.
she'll see it anyway.
Yes.
So, okay, my point of my question is, there may be people in the community who are particularly interested in this topic, some of whom may actually have some expertise in how to organize websites
Mhm.
and have them structured in ways that are user-friendly.
Sure.
I think they even have job titles now called UX designers. user experience designers.
Okay.
It's a whole new world. So,
Welcome.
anyway, you know, if we're looking to upgrade and make it more user-friendly, I think input from people who actually know about these things. I'm willing to be a guinea pig, because if you put something up and I can't use it, it's not good enough. So, you'll get the word out to people who are interested and can bring something to the subcommittee to help with this problem.
Me? Or
I'm
are you
looking
talking
at
to
you
Dr.
and
John?
Dr. Gianni.
I'll put the word out on Facebook.
No, I'm not getting on that committee, I'm staying off that committee.
Okay. All right,
All right, believe it or not, I think I'm done with my communications and announcements. Now it's time for the board to go around the table.
trustee and advisory committee reports. Well, there haven't been any advisory committee meetings.
Well, I do think you have a new student ex officio, might want to report.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that's a good point, but, I mean, let's just clear the table here. I don't
Yeah.
have
I
any
think we already-
reports from anybody at the table. And how about Miss Felice and Mr. Parker?
Cheryl Flynn.
You're muted. You're muted, Cheryl.
I see that elevating my knee, that's why you see me
Aw.
going. Anyway, is it, you asking me for my report now?
This is for trustee or advisory
Okay.
committee reports.
You got it. Okay, what I'd like to report to the board is, the group, the Brookhaven Landfill Closure and, Remediation Action Group. This is the group of people who are from the neighborhood of North Belport that would be most affected by the expansion of the Brookhaven landfill. Presently, the landfill is a solid waste, management facility site, and they're looking to, create a regional recovery and recycling residue facility, which means we would be transferring ash, garbage or ash, it would be burned at another facility, the ash would be then buried at this particular site. So there is a process involved where committees have been named. We went through that 2 weeks ago where Mr. Parker has been named as a representative for the town on behalf of the school board. And this group did write to all the committee members to ask for an expansion of that committee. They feel like there's not any representation from people in the neighborhood that are most affected by it. The reason that we brought it to the attention of the board is because it is in our school district. And certainly, we've had issue with the landfill in the past, so it's something we want to pay attention to. What is happening with this group, and the reason I call it to your attention this week, is the group is having a landfill call to action campaign to close the Brookhaven landfill community meeting Friday evening at 5 o'clock. It's gonna be a Facebook Zoom call, so you would have to be on Facebook to access it, I believe, or go on their website. But that's the name of the meeting, call to action, campaign to close the Brookhaven landfill. So it's open to anyone who wants to be there. And what they are doing is preparing the community for the first public session about the landfill, regional ash fill, that's going to be held by Brookhaven Town, virtually on October 1st, 2020 at 5 o'clock, and you can access, access for that meeting through the town website, which is brookhaventownnewyork.com. So just bringing it to the attention, I've been attending these meetings, and that's why I bring this forward to you. And I will do the same on the 2 meetings that I just mentioned. And then, there's just one more item I wanted to report to you. Of course, I can't find it now, but News 12 is doing a series on the state of our schools, and it will be airing on Wednesday night, September 3rd at 7 p.m. Channel 12. Just putting that out there so we can stay on top of what's being said in other areas. That's just an FYI, and that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Mr. Parker?
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Parker?
Okay. I did want to mention those things, Cheryl, this evening, later, about the Asheville meeting. And so I'm gonna keep you guys posted on any and everything that is being said at those meetings that I'm allowed to share with the outside of the committee. Now, however, would you send me that information on that Facebook meeting that's taking place on Friday?
Yes, I will.
Yeah, because I don't have it, and I know nothing
Okay.
about it. Okay?
Cheryl, can you send that
Yeah.
to the board, as a whole, please?
Cheryl, Mr. Trent's asking if you could send the information to the entire board with regard to the Zoom meeting on Friday.
Okay, I'll do that now.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Frankie? You're on
Mr.
mute.
Frankie.
Do you have any, thing, to report to us?
So at the Bellport High School, the students and faculty collectively feel that the reopening of the building went exceptionally well. My fellow peers, we've been very cooperative in displaying extreme caution in regards to the COVID-19 guidelines that are in place. When I met with our building principal, Mr. Hogan, to hear his thoughts on how he thought reopening went, he noted that there hasn't been a single student that has refused to wear a mask in the building, which I think we are all very pleased to hear. The Bellport High School Student Council, we had our first virtual meeting last week via Google Meets. More than 30 of my fellow peers from grades 9 to 12 met to discuss and express their opinions regarding upcoming activities and their goals for the year. I am glad to announce that the high school will be starting up clubs and activities again. These clubs will meet virtually to start off the year, but with the goal of switching to in-person as soon as possible. The Student Council will be hosting a virtual club day on September 30th, where high school students can find a club that appeals to them and sign up to get more information as well as reminders regarding that club. For those looking to get more information regarding the virtual club day, keep an eye out on the Bellport High School's website, where an announcement will be posted as more details are finalized. Overall, I'm really excited for this year. I think it's gonna be a really good school year, and I am very honored and excited to get the chance to speak at board meetings to report all the great things that will be happening at the high school this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we've got public commentary. Do we have any?
Oh, no, we don't have any.
Well, I was asking
Oh, I'm
our
sorry.
clerk whether anybody had written to us.
Yeah, I had asked already, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
you already knew the answer before
Yeah,
I asked the question.
I was jumping in, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay, we got that clear. Okay, items for discussion.
Yes, that's me. So our first item for discussion is the board's priorities for 2020-21 school year. I have included the priorities from last school year on board docs to begin our conversation. As I mentioned during the summer months, I believe areas of focus should be equity in education, technology and remote learning, and social emotional support for students and staff. By no means do I think those are the only ones. I think we could certainly try to weave those into what we already have. But I would like to get the board's thoughts on its priorities, and then the administration can put a draft together, hopefully for the board's consideration on our October meeting.
Okay, does anybody want to make comments about the existing priorities? These are the ones that the board passed a year ago. And so now they're being updated.
Yeah, so let's focus on the bottom of the list, the priorities, not the goals and the strategic planning goals. I think you see 5 there.
I agree with the equity. I'd like to possibly see as well, when we talk about communication with parents, but also, especially with the present circumstances, trainings for the parents when it comes to the technology that we have here. So maybe something along the lines of additional, let's say professional development for trainings and workshops for parents to assist their students, their children.
Just my personal feeling about number 2, I would like to really tap into the word welcoming and really kind of like break down what that means exactly, because it's a pretty broad term. And I think that's all I have of what's there now. I have some things I would like to add.
You want to share it now, or?
Yeah, I would like, where's my notes? I would like to see something in the priorities that addresses our commitment that we made last meeting as a board to address social injustice, systemic racism, and intolerance, somewhere mixed in here than the board priorities.
So the letter the board drafted.
Say it again?
The letter the board drafted,
Yeah.
along the lines of the letter?
Yeah. Some of that probably could be incorporated like into item 3, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else have any comments they'd like to make about any priorities that we should stress? I think the ones mentioned by Dr. Gianni. You said you would have a draft done, so you may not have thought about exactly which of these
Yeah, I don't-
priorities to
Yeah, I think
Put it in.
we need those 3 things we talked, unless the board's changed, it feels differently. I mean, I thought this summer we discussed and thought we should be focusing on these 3 items. And I certainly understand Mr. Ruda's suggestion of training and
I
workshop.
just wanted to speak to the president's last comment, that yes, I think items from the letter we drafted 2 weeks ago can be incorporated into item number 3, but could someone explain to me what item number 3 under strategic planning goals means?
under, we were looking at priority, are
What
you
is,
saying number?
what's the intention behind that goal?
I need to
Cheryl,
pull it up.
Miss Felice, let me clarify, because, are you looking at item 3 under strategic planning goals?
Yes.
Okay, we were down on the priorities, because that was what Dr. Gianni asked us to focus on, so our comments were based on priorities. So,
Okay.
now you're going back up to a strategic planning goal.
I thought that was becoming one and the same, and that's
Okay.
why, all right. I
All
was
right.
confused.
No, I'm just trying to clarify so we can hold the discussion, without mixing one with the other.
Okay, all right, got it. So then,
But I think
your
that,
suggestion-
since you've done that and you raised the question,
Mhm.
I actually think that under a strategic planning goal number 3, that needs to be rewritten in a way that's more specific. And I think that actually might be a good place to put in our commitment that we made in our statement from our last meeting.
I agree, it could work there as well, but I believe Mr. Trent also wants to see it in the board priorities, and I think our statement could support that is our intention, that it should be part of board priority, and it could go under item number 3 in the priorities as well, now that I'm rereading it. Just a suggestion.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and if there's a way to
Oh, I'm sorry.
If-
I'm speaking to a muted mic. Cameron, would you repeat again what you said?
Yeah, I wanted to include the statements or the promise we made in our last meeting about social injustice, systemic racism and intolerance. I wanted to include that in our board priorities.
Very good. Thank you.
I was going to ask, since our next meeting is 3 weeks from now, if there's a way to get the redraft out to us with at least a week's notice, so we can look at it, and we may even have some comments about language or how we would like to strengthen some of the commitments that we're making to the students and the people in our community.
Okay, sure.
You know, May, I'd like to ask a question, and it pertains to African-American studies in general. Why don't we include that in some of our planning? In many schools, it is part of the education. And why don't we include that in ours as well?
You mean in the actual goals? I mean, it is included, but
Or are you asking whether or not there's anything in our existing curriculum?
There's nothing in our existing curriculum to my knowledge. But my question would be, why don't we have it? It should be part of our, it is part of African American studies. It's very important. I want to use a negative term, but discovery of our history now, and it should be included in a lot of things. Even when you think of the 1921 massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma, all of this information maybe should be part of our curriculum.
Well, again, I think if we look down to our priorities, it talks about supporting teaching and learning aligned to learning standards, etc. Maybe in there, we could include, history, teaching African American history, within the curriculum. I think you've probably got the.
I believe we do have courses at the high school, am I correct, Dr. Gianni?
we do.
We do, right?
And I was wondering, whether, like the AP text, I think it was the AP textbook that was adopted last fall, which probably
Well, I think
promotes
AP
that
would-
kind of thing, but, that would be something to look into, to make sure that we've got appropriate curriculum in place.
Definitely something that we're teaching and learning.
But I don't think AP would be the correct placing for it. I
That-
think that's
That wasn't what I was saying, I was just making a reference to, I'd remembered a new textbook that we had approved last year. And Ms. Aruda just had said that the Teaching and Learning Committee could undertake a review of the curriculum to make sure
diversity
that
within the
textbooks
curriculum.
and course materials are adequate to give a full history lesson to everybody.
I'm sorry, Melissa, I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, no, I remember courses being offered at the high school, but I definitely think once teaching and learning comes up, again, that's something that, that committee, could even be a subcommittee of the committee that we can look into to ensure that we are having diversity within the curriculum.
Well, that's what I was gonna suggest, an equity and race advisory committee. Some districts have started to do that, and I think with hearing what some other teachers are doing to try and incorporate those factors into the classroom, a committee, I think, would be a perfect environment to talk about.
It's definitely
Is that-
something we can look into moving
Maybe
forward.
that's an idea too, of another advisory
Well, I
committee.
would suggest that would be under teaching and learning.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah.
But again, you could have a subcommittee that includes people that aren't on the Teaching and Learning Advisory Committee, just the way we will have the subcommittee of strategic planning dealing with the updated website. So I think that would be good, and it would allow for some more community participation. So thank you for that, Mr. Parker.
Anything further on?
I think that's that for the priorities.
Okay, so moving on to our next item for discussion, which is the first reading of revisions to the Code of Conduct. We asked council to review the code and suggest any changes the board may wish to consider as a result of a move to hybrid and remote teaching and learning. These recommended changes are under prohibited student conduct with the addition of item N. And I'll read that addition. Tape, record, or photograph remote learning sessions, streaming, instructional or extracurricular content, or district-produced videos, media without prior permission from the classroom teacher or administration. And the other revision is under visitors to school with the addition of item 5. And I will read that as well. Parents who wish to tape, record, photograph, or in any way document remote learning sessions, streaming, instructional or extracurricular content, or district-produced video media shall request permission in advance from the classroom teacher and/or administration. Those are the two recommended changes. Administration recommends these revisions, and I offer them as a first reading and public hearing for the Code of Conduct, which is required by law.
I want to say two things. Number one, that was item F3. So when we finish this, we're going to go back to item F2, which,
No, we're on F2, that's the reopening.
the
reopening
reopening
one,
update,
please, yeah.
and that was the temperature readings.
Oh, yeah, you
The
didn't,
temp-
yeah.
Okay, so let's
have
finish, because he's already done the
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
the
it got,
very heavy-duty one.
it got bounced around somehow.
Yeah, but
Okay.
anyway.
So F3, yes.
F3. And so this would be the time for some comments with regard to,
To this item, yes, it's
Yes.
the first reading, so if the board has any input or,
I have, I guess, a question, but it sounds almost inconsistent to say that, well, maybe it's not. That if we want the teachers to be able to record the lessons so that a child could go back to it. If they didn't quite understand it the first time they heard it or observed it, they could go back to it. That would be posting lessons online, and they are recorded so that the child or the parent could go back and review it. So that would be considered with permission of the teacher and/or administrator, which is what you have in the Code of Conduct.
It's going to be, that would be posted by the teacher.
Okay, so this Code of Conduct is for anything that's not posted by the teacher.
Posted and not intended to be recorded.
Okay. Can you give an example?
Sure, so a teacher may be having a Google Meet with an SE, with the entire class for social emotional learning, and the student or the parent clicks record at home, or photographs it with their telephone. and records it.
Okay, so the recording, that the Code of Conduct is intended to protect against
So
is
when you-
recording of student activity or student,
So if the code doesn't say it's prohibited, you cannot take action against someone that does it. So the code of conduct allows you to have rules in place that can be disciplined in the event that students don't follow the code.
I have two questions. And you finish?
Oh, yes, Mr. Trent, please.
My first question is, in the event that a student does this, records the teacher, and is 100% remote, what kind of punishment or repercussions could we take on?
Yeah, I can't tell you. We would go to the progressive discipline policy. It would certainly be lighter the first time. If it was consistent and the student continued doing it, then discipline would get progressive. It would depend. It would depend on a lot of things. Depend on the child's age, depend on the child's grade level.
Now, I just wanted to suggest something. Is it possible that we could just waive the first reading rule and approve the policy tonight so it becomes effective?
I would look at
I believe,
the requirement is to do 2 readings, whether you could waive
Unless
it.
the board
Well, we're
waives it.
You
gonna
know what,
have a special-
I just say that because this has come up before. I have a fundamental issue with waiving a policy to enact a policy. That's it.
Right.
But that is policy though, that we could waive the policy.
How about this?
Policy
Because
is that it has to be read twice.
We're
So
gonna,
Mr. Chair, I know we could waive the first reading policy. The
we do
board-
whatever we want, is what I'm saying. I'm just saying, we've been in this place before, so I guess the question remains if something is more important or, you know, there's a reason why there's 2 readings, right? That's all I'm getting at.
may I suggest this? We're going to have a special meeting with one item on the agenda, which is the athletic plan. Why don't we make it item 2, which would be the second reading? I don't think there's anything that says there has to be a certain amount of time between the first and second reading. We could do that next week. Would that take care of
That's
your
fine.
concern? That's what's called a compromise. So does this take care of that?
Except I'm gonna
I'm
throw a
fine.
wrench in this. I'm gonna throw, have we thought about for the code of conduct, incorporating, possibly parents that consistently come to class with their child?
Yeah, so sometimes that could be supportive. We did, and we thought that might be better handled by the classroom teacher and then the principal first before putting something like that in.
Okay, I just didn't know if that was a
Because
discussion.
sometimes that's very supportive for the kid to be there, it's for the parent to be there assisting the student.
Right, right. No, I was referring more to assisting the other students.
Well, I'm sure as we.
As we progress
as we-
on
as
in
we
this new world, we
delve
will,
into this new
yes,
normal,
okay.
other items will come up.
All right, but here's another question, if you don't mind first. The taping and recording that concerns me the most would be of other children. And like you said, taking a picture
Okay, yeah.
with a phone and whatever. So couldn't the language be even stronger that under no circumstances may a parent or student capture a photo of another child?
Well, there are circumstances that could be, and with the permission of the teacher, who may have the permission of the students. And I'll defer to counsel, but.
The only thing I thought about is, say, you're home or something that is, your child is doing a presentation, but you're unable to be there. And, you know, typically, you know, under your policy, you do have parents are invited into classrooms. And under normal circumstances, sometimes they take pictures of their child, whether at a presentation or whether they are doing a reading. And if the parent is stuck at home, so they can only come in remotely, they may want to film that or take a picture. So that's why I put it in the capacity of the classroom teacher to regulate that activity. Because it's in line with your current policy that allows parents to come in and observe classrooms.
Okay, one final question from me on this. In your opinion, is this putting too much of a burden on the classroom teacher to have one more level of behavior to have to monitor?
No, I think it's something that's wanted by the teacher to have the rule that it can't happen. And it allows teachers and principals to point to the code of conduct that you're not permitted to do that.
Okay, so if that's what's motivated this, I think the language is stronger if you say there shall be no taping, recording, or photographing remote learning sessions unless there's prior written permission of the teacher and/or administrator. This is written in more of a passive voice.
I think it's kind of passive when it comes to the parents, which isn't really a bad thing. It's like a nice way of saying, please ask us first. And there would be ramifications if they go against the code of conduct. Are you reading the one that's for the parents or the?
No, I'm reading the student one.
So the student one is a prohibition, that's a definition of prohibited conduct.
Right.
So that is the same way all other prohibited conduct is defined.
Then, okay, walk me through this, because the way I see it, it's in a paragraph that says, engaging in any willful act which disrupts the normal operation of the school community, colon. And then you go down and it's N.
Right, so those are all prohibited conduct.
Above that, I believe, although you don't see it on here, I believe it tells you that it's
Disciplinary actions may apply to students who engage in conduct that is substantially disruptive. And then, number 3, engaging in a willful act that disrupts the normal operation of the school community. And everything listed underneath that is defined as prohibited conduct. So it follows the same way your policy is laid out, describing conduct that is prohibited. The parent section is set up the same way typical parent sessions are set up. They're not necessarily prohibited conduct, but restriction on conduct in general. So that conduct is modeled after the observation of classrooms by parents. So it's permitted with approval. Whereas the student conduct section this is a listing of prohibited conduct.
Okay.
I certainly can change it if the board likes, but that's the rationale
All
behind
right,
the way it's set up.
then I've got, it's an editing thing. Because I understood how you looked at this. But in N, to make it consistent with everything else, it should be taping, recording, or photographing. And then leave the rest the way it is, and then,
Okay, that's fine.
okay. All right.
I just have a question when it says, and this is just really for the teachers too. It says, without prior permission from classroom teacher and/or administration, is it gonna be left up to the teachers really in the end, or is administration just in there, to kind of include them? But it's really ultimately up to the teacher?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just, because just the and/or is like, so if the teacher says yes and the principal says no, that's why I don't like and/ors. But I just want to make sure that as long as the teacher has the right to make the final decision and wouldn't get in trouble for it, saying, yes, you are allowed to record this, then I don't have a problem with it.
The only thing we are requiring is for teachers to record, not to be recorded.
No, I meant, so let's say I call
Yeah, no.
the teacher and say, can I record this? She says yes. Is her word good? That's what I'm kind of saying.
Yes.
It does, I don't have to call the next person. Okay.
No.
All right, that was all I had for that.
Okay, so, we are going to revise to say taping, recording, and photographing, and continue.
And that would be in the student conduct section.
Any input from anyone else? Okay, then I will move to the new item F2. And the next item and final item for discussion is our reopening plan. At the board's direction, I checked with our school doctor regarding the length of time to wait between temperature rechecks and what might be considered a low temperature that would need to be rechecked. Dr. Donatelli indicated that we should wait no less than 10 minutes from the first reading for a high reading. And if a temperature is scanned below 95 degrees, we should rescan for device accuracy. These changes appear in red on pages 13, 14, and 15, and I offer them for the board's review and approval.
I think that those two changes that you're suggesting take care of the problems that we discussed at our last meeting. I'm happy with it.
I'm happy that the time was put in there, thank you.
Does anybody else have questions or discussion? So you need a motion from us to approve that?
I do.
Okay, we need a motion to approve, it's item F2, which is an update to the reopening plan. Ms. Ancona made the motion, Ms. Aruda seconded it, all in favor? Okay, okay, it's unanimously approved by all 7 members of the board.
And moving on to curriculum items, the administration recommends approval of curriculum items reflected in Schedule G1 and G2.
Is there a motion to approve curriculum items G1 and G2? Mr. Trent, a second by Ms. Aruda. Questions or discussion? I see none. So all in favor, please raise your hand. And Mr. Parker, yes, okay.
Thumbs up.
It's unanimously approved.
And moving on to personnel, administration recommends approval of personnel changes reflected in schedules H1 through H7.
Is there a motion to approve items H1 through H7? Motion by Ms. Ancona, a second by Mr. Trent. Any questions or discussions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Mr. Trent?
This is, this doesn't include the,
No,
okay,
absolutely not.
I was trying to word it.
Okay.
Just a quick question, if we move forward with the intramurals, have we already approved?
We probably have approved some.
That's because I know that
Yeah.
it was contingent, so we wouldn't have to add that for the next, I don't want anything to hold anything up.
No, you know, it depends if it's intramurals or if it's what we're talking about, a conditioning. It would depend.
Okay, so if maybe for
Well-
the next meeting, we could make sure that if
We'll
we're gonna
look
do
at-
that special, this way we don't have anything holding anything up.
Yeah, understood.
If there's no further questions or discussion, all in favor of approving items H1 through H7? Unanimously approved.
And moving on to business, administration recommends approval of business items reflected in Schedule I1 through I6.
Is there a motion to approve business items I1 through I6? Mr. Trent, a second by Ms. Ancona. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Trent?
I think, I would like the board to put together a thank you to the department, the fire department from Suffolk, the emergency service of Suffolk, to thank them for their donation of face masks.
So the board's aware, administration thanks every donation by letter to.
Oh,
So it's already,
Yeah,
in
we
the works.
automatically thank,
Automatically
whoever
do.
donates, we thank.
okay. All right.
Next, one question
Yep,
on, the item of, 5, donation for scholarship fund, the Compass Scholarship. I'm glad to see that we can now accept scholarships on behalf of Compass Unity. Dr. Gianni, about a half a year ago, maybe a year ago now, I was at the luncheon, the annual luncheon with Compass Unity, and you were there, and that's the first time they made a plea that they were going to start collecting. At that time, I said I was interested in making that donation, but I was told they didn't have the capacity to accept the donations yet. So that has changed since that time, and they can now accept donations on.
Yes, we
scholarships?
opened a trust and agency for them here in the district, yes.
Okay,
So you can get your checkbook out.
yeah, well, I did make it, want to fulfill my commitment, thank you.
You will.
okay. So, all in favor of items I-1 through I-6, please raise your hand. It's unanimously approved. And closing remarks by board members. We will start with Mr. Frankie.
So, I would like to thank everyone again for a warm welcome onto the Board of Education. I would especially like to thank Dr. Gianni, the Board of Education, Mr. Hogan, and all my current and former teachers. The Sanford South Country School District has built me into the person that I am today, and without them pushing me for the best, I probably wouldn't be here virtually speaking to you all today. I look forward to reporting all the great achievements and activities happening at Belport High School. And throughout the remainder of the year, I am excited and can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Say, Ms. Felice?
I would just also like to welcome Mr. Jack Frankie to the board and wish you the best of luck in your year. Thank you.
Mr. Parker?
Mr. Frankie, congratulations, welcome to the South Country School Board community. All the best to you. Bye.
Ms. Ancona?
So I just wanted to say, students and staff are doing so good and everything's going so well. And I'm really happy about the Wednesday attendance change, that the kids don't have to sign in, because that was stressful for a lot of the parents. And it's just that we have to just make sure that everybody's on the same page, because the teachers are saying one thing, the students are saying another, administration's saying another. So I just want to make it very clear cut across the board. I know that secondary, but I think that even sometimes teachers are doing their own thing, which, of course they have every right to, but it just needs to be clear and concise to everybody of what is expected of everybody. And to Mr. Frankie, congratulations and have a great year. And that's it.
Thank you.
Ms. Ancona?
Nope. It's okay, it's the evening. Congratulations to Mr. Frankie. You won me over on your orientation video when you sent that out to our freshmen. That really was very powerful. And you're hiding your face, but it really did. And, the freshmen know you, which is really exciting, and they remember your face. So that's awesome. Just real quickly, having a freshman, and under these circumstances, I was very nervous as to his first experience in high school. And honestly, kudos to everyone at the high school, because he comes home each day that he is in person, loving the high school, loving the teachers, loving the environment that's there. And that's that's a huge undertaking under these circumstances, so kudos to everyone over at the high school.
Mr. Pacini?
Just a welcome to Jack. I think it was kindergarten when I coached in football, and then me and your dad coached basketball for a couple of years, so it's kind of interesting to sit here at the board table with us when I remember when you guys were in kindergarten. So welcome and good luck your senior year.
Mr. Trent?
I just want to echo the sentiments. Welcome, Jack. You have the closest relationship to our students. You are one of our students. I just want to let you know your voice is incredibly important, especially while we go through what we go through. So please don't hesitate to speak up and to use your voice, all right? Welcome again.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, on another note, policy 1410 allows the board to waive the second reading to approve a policy on the first reading, which is the first reading, just so we're clear.
Okay, but we're gonna handle that next week.
No, I just wanted it to be.
Okay.
There's a policy in ordering us to waive a policy. It's interesting, I'll read it. That's
Well, it,
1410.
whatever, doesn't
we're
matter.
not doing that now. These are closing remarks, and it's now my turn. One of the nicest things that I heard tonight had to do with the students at the high school following the social distancing and mask wearing requirements. And I'm really glad to hear that because it shows that those of you who will soon be adults will have already demonstrated a lot of responsibility to your community by doing that. And so we want to thank you and thank you for your leadership. You know what was said before, that you're now, I guess, on video. You must have done a video that your face is known to the entering freshmen. So you and your peers can be terrific role models. And if there's a way that we can share that to the younger grades as well, I think we'll all be better for it. So thank you so much for all your efforts. And now I need a motion, Mr. Trent's motion to adjourn this meeting. Ms. Ancona has seconded it. There's no discussion here, all in favor. Okay, I think I see that there's agreement on our two Zoom attendees, so unanimously approved. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.